Welcome to the RSP's Reads, Listens, Views. I'm Matt Waldman with the Rookie Scouting Portfolio, and this is my weekly look at what's available at my site, mattwaldmanrsp.com. Leading off, Jay Moyer did a really nice video kind of showing similar stuff that Alexander Mattison, the Vikings draft pick, displayed at Boise State. So I compared a video analysis he did on Twitter and put it on my site, and also posted what I had done on him at Boise State to give you a comparison of his processing and execution skills. Two things that are really important with running back play and often overlooked because people look at the running back position as an instinctive position when it's actually a lot of learned behavior, and it's a far more complex position than people give it credit for. And I discuss a lot of that here in this particular piece with the help of contributor Jay Moyer's video. Devonta Freeman talking about processing some more, reinforcing a different type of processing in the open field and the kind of conviction that you need to have in certain decision-making situations for running backs that guys don't always have, that can separate a good running back from a great running back. And I would say that Devonta Freeman, when healthy, is a borderline great running back. And one of the things that really separates him from a lot of decent starters in the NFL is not only his processing ability, but the conviction in which he makes his decisions. There's no hesitation to his game, and I show you why that is. Then Adam Thielen talking about, conviction, selling the route with feeling. And I show you a route where he really sells that route in a way where I talk about the techniques, but I also talk about in the same way that you parallel route running, you can parallel route running with technique in music or with any type of performance. In order to sell any type of performance, it has to be exaggerated a little bit, even with the subtleties that are in that. You really have to, when you're selling something, you really have to put emotion into it. There has to be something that's compelling to the viewer or the audience. In this case, it has to be compelling to the defensive back. We talk a little bit about more of that with Adam Thielen and show examples. And then when it comes to feeling, sometimes you can play with too much intensity. And we show you a play from LeVeon Bell where maybe he showed a little bit too much intensity as a pass protector, and why running backs have to be careful when they're chipping edge defenders and to dial it back just a little bit and show you why that's a common problem. And then we talk about evaluation, and we have Jay Moyer once again showing some videos of Kerryon Johnson, and I write a little bit more about that because he breaks down how Kerryon Johnson, oftentimes when you evaluate his tape, he may not have had strong gains because he was not playing behind a great offensive line. He was facing a really tough defense, but he still performed well from an evaluator's perspective. So I show you what a process-based evaluation is over a results-based evaluation, and give you some examples of criteria that I use to study running backs that has help me identify guys like Ahmad Bradshaw, Matt Forte, and a variety of other backs who haven't performed well necessarily from a yards per carry standpoint or total yards standpoint on their college tape in terms of evaluations that I did, but they performed extremely well on my evaluations when I do scouting reports because I use a process-based evaluation. Then looking at just some small details. The undervalued exchange game. Really what that means is the footwork involved with handoffs, the handwork, the different varieties of handoffs you can make, and why that can be impactful to a play. And I show Tom Brady in the Super Bowl doing just that on a play that functions much like a counter, and really the defense keys on Tom Brady initially, and he's the one that fools them with his initial drop from center heading to exchange with Sony Michel. Speaking of the Patriots, Mark Schofield, writer for the RSP, has his new show with Pat's Pulpit, excellent group of folks with SB Nation. He has his daily show. He invited me on to be a guest, and we talked about the skill players for the Pats and how they're shaping up for in training camp. And then John Owning, who's a friend of the program, talks a little, shared this with me about wide receiver coach Sanjay of the Cowboys. It was a 12-minute interview, probably one of the best things that I've listened to in that short span of time, talking about receiver play in terms of a very brief and concise explanation of what's important with receiver play, you'll find this extremely valuable. Ross Cooper, who is a skill acquisition coach, a college coach, recruiter, he and I spent probably the fastest hour I've ever had on a podcast talking about skill training. You know, those videos you see on YouTube and other social media outlets where guys are running around hoops and cones and having garbage cans thrown at them and all sorts of different props to help them apparently learn their game. Well, we talk about some of the myths and pitfalls of that type of training and what's also good that can come out of it. What are some things that people should really be looking for when they watch those videos? I highly recommend this podcast. And then Dwain McFarland continue our projection series. We did an hour on the Seahawks. We did a little more than an hour on the Carolina Panthers. You can check out the rest of Dwain and my projection series. On the front page, you'll find this particular picture of excerpt of Young Frankenstein, and you can see what we've done so far. All the links connect to those episodes. And then scouting reports. Have some sample scouting reports. Preston Williams of Miami, who's done extremely well this weekend and all throughout camp. He was my number 7 receiver in this class. And, he's a guy that I highly recommend you check out and read a little bit more about his report. I also unearthed my previous look at James Washington, my sample scouting report from 2018, and explained to you why he has a chance to become a fully dimensional receiver in the NFL, and he's making some good progress. And I show you where I made a mistake on Devonta Freeman, where I messed up with my scouting report, and it can be attributed to what I would call imposter syndrome. I define what that is in my specific case, and what I missed on with Devonta Freeman. That had a lot to do with my process more than anything, and you'll understand why a good process has to be adjusted or continuously be evaluated so that you adjust it to become better. Also talk about where I've spotted some flaws with Andre Williams' game that were a little bit different than what the consensus had to say about him, and why he was ranked much lower on my board than a lot of the national draft analysts. And the same with Knile Davis, a guy who I also felt like had flaws, where he had a good career as a kick returner. He certainly had some moments as a running back, but he never quite broke into the starting lineup. And I explained why some of the things I saw in the college game also extended to his pro performance. And then talk a little bit about stem work with Paul Richardson, one of my favorite players who just has never really gotten over the hump due to injury. And then, listen, if you're a fantasy player, check out the rookie scouting portfolio. Highly recommend what you're going to be able to get here, or just a draftnik. You get a pre-draft, post-draft update. You get monthly newsletters that come out between June and December of each year. If you are a subscriber, please check out my work at mountwaldmanrsp.com, and you can subscribe to the site and get new articles showing up in your inbox almost every day. Thanks again.